Tips at 2 at Be So Creative Studios. I'm Ellen, and I have an easy tip for you today. It involves finishing off the raw edges of your projects. As you know, much of the fabric we work with is ravelly, has a lot of raveled ends, and many times when we finish our projects, we want to finish our raw edges off so that these things, little hairs, don't ravel out. And there's a number of ways to do that. If you're fortunate enough to own a serger, you might get your serger out and finish the raw edge with a serger. A serger is terrific for this. It's kind of the main reason we own sergers. It trims this edge and also wraps the whole edge over with two loops, a loop on the back and a loop on the front. Those loops meet right on the edge of the fabric, and so you can see that because the edge of that fabric is covered now, or overlocked, as we say, or overcast with thread, those little ravelly hairs can't come out on the edge. You may not own a serger though, or you may just need to do a little tiny area in a project you're working on. It may not be worth setting up a serger or threading the serger with the right color just for maybe finishing the little edge of a pocket that you're going to turn under or something. And the other problem sometimes is if you're working with a real delicate project, an heirloom, a baby outfit or something, you may not want all that thread or all of that weight in the project. And so we're going to talk about a stitch that is available on almost every sewing machine made especially for overcasting or overlocking. In fact, in your manual of your machine, it'll probably be called an overcast or overlock stitch. I am on the Baby Lock Jubilant today, and the stitch that is designed for that overcast stitch is stitch number 11. Now before I go to that stitch, I want to show you what happens when you just use a regular zigzag, because I always learned at first, just use a little zigzag at the edge of your fabric and that zigzag will hold those raw edges in. So right now I've got the machine set for zigzag, and if I take my fabric, I have to first of all move my fabric over to the left so that I can make sure that the zigzag goes right on the edge of my fabric, and I'm trying to get the zigzag to go as close to the edge of my fabric as I can. It's kind of a guess how close I can get it, and when I bring my fabric out, you will see one of the problems that I have here. There. It is finishing on the raw edge, but it also grabs and rolls or turns that edge under. And sometimes it can turn it under so much that it almost leaves a lump there. So this is okay, but not the best, especially when you have a stitch designed just for overcasting. So I'm going to go over to that stitch now. On the Jubilant here, it's stitch number 11. And it's telling me that I need the G foot, and the G foot is the Baby Lock foot that is designed for overcasting. And your brand will have a foot comparable to this. If you notice, the overcasting foot is a little different. It sort of has the toe, the big toe is separated from the other toes on the foot. And the real key in this, there's two key parts to this. First of all, there's a little blade right here. That blade is designed to act as a guideline for the edge of your fabric to go under. The real test of an overcast foot is this pin that is right here in the middle. That pin is going to work as a finger that sticks out and allows the stitch to form over that bar or finger. In fact, on a serger, you actually have this part built down into the bottom of your serger, and that's how a serger works. The stitch is formed over the other side of that finger. That little finger is going to keep the fabric from getting pulled in or rolled in, which is what we do not want. So before I put this one on and demonstrate it, let me show you On the Bernina machines that we also sell here at our store, you would be looking at foot number 2. That is your overlock or overcast foot. And the Bernina foot is similar. You can see on this one, poor thing has just completely lost its big toe altogether. And so there is that pin that I told you about right there. That's the pin that the stitch is designed to sew over. And then on the Bernina machine, you'd put on the 2, and then you would find the comparable stitch on the Bernina machine that is designed especially for overcasting. If you can see here on my Jubilant machine, the stitch looks a lot like a blind hem stitch, and sometimes I get them confused. So make sure that you're not using the blind hem stitch. It does have some straight stitching and then a zigzag and then more straight stitching and a zigzag, and that's what the blind hem foot does too. But the blind hem foot generally, the blind hem stitch generally goes the other direction. So look in your manual and make sure you know which stitch is designated for overcasting. So I will change the feet here. I'm going to put on the G foot, and now when I put my fabric on, I have an edge here. Right along here, there's a stopper. It's a blade that keeps my fabric from moving any farther over. And so it's exactly proportioned to where it needs to be for this stitch, which is stitch number 11. So here I go. It's going to go stitching straight, and as it moves over, it's moving over onto that pin. Somehow, I got some thread caught, but it looks okay. So I want you to see now what this beautiful stitch looks like. You can see the straight stitches there, but you can see it has come over and it has encased the edge of my fabric, so no fraying, but it also did not roll or turn under my fabric at all. It kept it nice and flat. So that's going to make a nice, delicate little finish. And when I compare it with the serged edge, of course, as I said, the serger is designed for this, so the serger's just perfect at it. But look how much more thread and bulk I have to add with the serger, whereas this is going to give me a very light little edging. So again, on heirloom or lightweight things, shears, you may not want all of that thread showing through. This with, of course, a matching blending thread color will be almost invisible. So that is how to overcast. The overcasting foot and stitch come with almost every machine. Even the most basic machines that we sell here at the store, entry-level machines, usually have a stitch designed for that overcasting. And if your machine didn't come with a foot, you can usually purchase that foot to do it. So next time you need to finish that raw edge, grab that overcasting foot, find your stitch, get familiar with it, and you're going to find that it is very useful in many of your projects. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you again next Tuesday at 2.